All right, so welcome back in today. We're going to be diving into Bitcoin and also Ethereum. And we'll be doing some technical analysis with Evan Aldo, who will be joining us today, breaking down where Bitcoin is going, what has happened over the last couple of days. Obviously, we saw a train wreck with Luna and Terra. And I think this is, of course, in a very precarious situation in the market. We're going to try to answer all those questions for you. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into TechPath. Joining me today, of course, is Mr. Evan Aldo. He's doing it remote, though, because I don't want to get you sick.
Yep. Great to be here
How you
remote
doing?
though. Still good. Doing well, doing
Hey,
well.
let's
A little stressful.
it is. It has been a little crazy.
Yeah,
Everybody's in the comments, saying, "Paul, my God, the market's like taking your health down," and I'm like,
yeah. I got
"No,
some
it's
good
just
news
COVID.
for you guys. Some good news for
Just
you guys though.
COVID." No, but I'm feeling better, and sorry for the voice, guys. So please bear with us there. I'll try to get through this. But Evan and I will break this down today. Evan, I'm going to jump into a couple of stories, and I want to share your views on the charts because I know you got a lot of stuff that I think the viewers are really going to like. We'll take a look at Ethereum first, and then we'll flow into Bitcoin just so you guys can have an understanding of how we're going to run the show today. Let's get into the first story from Finbold right here, which is global cryptocurrency regulatory body likely to be unveiled by next year. And this is, of course, looking at the International Organization of Securities Commission. This is the chairperson, Ashley Alder. They've hinted to this point is that there may be a regulatory body that could be getting into, I think, in an essence of being able to be kind of a guide toward where we're going to see crypto regulation going. Because that's the big concern I think a lot of people have is the fact that can government even regulate something this complex and also this volatile in the essence of being able to deal with it so it doesn't necessarily play favoritism toward big banks, big finance, and what we all know is typically Wall Street. So this will be interesting to see how this plays out. The good point in my position on this still, and I know it's not necessarily a popular one, is I think we need a dash of regulation. Obviously, with what happened with Terra, especially over the past few days, and the amount of people that got wrecked on that, and Luna going to pretty much zero, has really showed for a big market cap token like that one to take a hit. Regulation may have been a good position. Now, there's a lot of speculation in the market about that. We're going to try to do a video around Terra and what's happening with Luna for you guys as well. But definitely a lot of tremors happening. And part of that is even pushing toward Tether now, untethering. Even though it has done this before, when you look at Tether over its lifetime, it's had many occasions where it has unpegged and rebounded quite quickly, which has been the case today. It has rebounded and repegged. So I don't know that Tether necessarily is at risk, but it is one of those projects or one of those stable coins that I have always been a little bit skeptical of. I trade in Tether, but I exit it often. So that's just my strategy, not necessarily telling everybody else to do. My preferred stable coin, again, still is USDC in going that direction. Germany is also going into, I think, a very bullish opportunity here because they're going into no taxes for selling your Bitcoin and ETH if it's held for over a year. This would be huge for tax ramifications in the EU, and with the EU under some pretty heavy situations right now and in a second quarter of GDP decline, which essentially is an official recession, this could be a big factor for them. So good on Germany. I like what they're doing. And then ETH, right here it is, plunging 13%, while Bitcoin, of course, has been pushing to a dominance high in 2022. So this will be a big factor here. I think, Evan, on Ethereum is it has almost reacted a little differently than Bitcoin than it has reacted in the past when it normally kind of traces along with Bitcoin. But we saw a little bit more pain on Ethereum over this past week. Let's jump to your charts and first of all, give me
Yeah.
kind of your opinion on where you think Ethereum is going to be going.
Yeah, so let me share you my chart right here. The main thing on ETH, right now, and we've been talking about how these very large time frames looked pretty awful. If you're not too familiar with market cipher, this is a blood diamond in the 6 day on ETH. So it was a pretty predictable pattern of what happened last time in our 2018 bear market. The last time this happened, we came down 87%. However, ETH is not, it's more of a blue chip now. Not many people consider it what it was back then. It's proven itself in a lot of ways. So I've been saying this big pattern right here, this big area right here is huge. The 618 fib level, 6.65 fib level. And we had that nice bounce off of it last night, actually. And we're already up to $2,000 here. There is some short term hope. I do think that, you may come up here a bit more. This looks really good on market cipher B right here. Good curvature on your money flow, a little trigger wave on the 15-minute. Also on your 4-hour, look right here. Nice green dot, these 3 green dots right here. Bitcoin, it looks even better. It's more of a divergence than your hourly, just about a bullish divergence from here to here. You see these momentum waves coming up
Right.
as price is coming down. That's going to bring you up. Now, in the most bullish of circumstances, there is a possibility we just hit the bottom right here. This is our bear market bottom. I think most likely, you rally up maybe to 2,400, maybe even less, 2,200, something like this. Then you continue down a little bit farther. There's a big area around 1,500 here. So that's what we got to look at. Also, typically things bottom out when they're in the deep in the red on the daily. So if you look here, this would kind of be an estimate of where you'd bottom out mid-June. And it would be a similar percentage down to kind of a repeat of this trajectory here, where you come down about 46% from that area. If you map it out 46% from up here, 46% around 1,500. So I do think, this is a major, major buying opportunity, in my opinion. I think we're going to rally up, like you were talking about with regulations. I think that's going to help us and make us rally up in the second half of the year. But I think, right now, good buying opportunity, but you may come a little bit lower in the next month. That's the way I'm viewing the market at the moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So a lot of things that we look at on the CPI has kind of been leaning into what's been happening in the markets. And I think it's one thing that a lot of people don't necessarily understand. I was looking at the CPI home here. I kind of just want to jump to the dashboard real quick. And a couple of the projects that were probably the ones that, again, are most concerning to those watching today is I want to jump to Ethereum, just kind of follow along with where you've been. This downward trend has definitely been pushing, but we did see a little bit of movement upward this week, kind of signaling, especially on sentiment amplification, getting ready to intersect here, which will be interesting to see how these two start to move. But again, Ethereum was a little bit slower, and in at least in a, I think in an overall market position, and it has been in terms of a downtrend, a little slower. But I think at this last couple of date periods, the dropout really occurred, and of course we saw that in the charts yesterday. Same thing kind of occurred with Bitcoin right here, and I'll show you this also on the other chart. But it did something, and this was a video I put out also on the CPI showing a divergence here between sentiment and amplification not keeping up. So we did see a little bit of a precursor to what we're seeing in the market right now. But again, always looking at kind of that downtrend for sure. I want to jump back over to a couple of things as well in terms of the hopium that everybody wants and needs right now to kind of understand where these markets are going. You've got, of course, Charles Hoskinson Global. This is a concern, but at the same time, Hosk is out there really kind of addressing everything in terms of where the market conditions are. And I think he's kind of given a little bit of calmness to many of the Cardano holders for sure. But I think overall in the market itself, he's concerned that the global economy will collapse and it cannot sustain itself. And this is something that he's talked about at length, and it's kind of right here. It's a hard thing requiring new research and development, which is why we invested the time. They've kind of slowed down in terms of what Cardano is doing, but I think what his point is that the concern being that if we see a global slowdown, obviously remember from our video yesterday, and you guys understand, EU and also China are both in recession, an official recession right now, and we are basically 1 quarter away from officially being in one here in the United States as well. So there's a lot leaning into that as well that could push us back into what you're talking about, Evan, and that is maybe a double bottom here. So it'd be interesting.
All right, so I want to thank our sponsor today. That's iTrust Capital. If you guys are looking at long-term investment, this is the way to go, and that is a crypto IRA. One thing is that I always look at is who is the most trusted ones out there. And when you think about trust, you always look at kind of the overall value. And what they've done here is over 5 billion in transactions. They did a raise at 125 million, which gave them a 1.3 billion dollar value, and then over 150,000 accounts have been created on this program. So great platform, easy to get to. Make sure and use our link below and use iTrust Capital. You're going to get $100 in a funding reward when you sign up with our link. Make sure and check it out.
Also, Bitcoin is, of course, risked already in what we saw going to 20K, but it looks like 25 may have been the bottom. Evan, tell me a little about what you see on the charts when it comes to Bitcoin, especially going down to what we've seen in the 25K range.
I got a lot to show you on Bitcoin. It's going to be really interesting.
Perfect.
So I'm sharing my screen with you right now, and I got quite a few different things. So the first thing I want to show you is on a very macro level. So there's a few different things on Market Cipher we could look here. So every single time we've gotten, if you see this red X on Market Cipher A up here, every single time you were at a bottom or very close to a bottom when it happened, all the way back in our 2014 bear market, our 2018 bear market, and right now in our 2022 bear market. So then this is interesting too. This was about a 66% correction here from the bar, the candle when the bar, excuse me, or candle when the red X appeared, 66% down. This was when Bitcoin had a tiny market cap. In 2018, 55% down. So 66, 55, what's 11% less than there if we repeat the same pattern? That would be 44% down. Where would 44% bring it to? About 23.5. So I think according to this, you're getting very close to your bottom here. Now, the other thing I want to show you that's interesting too is if we look at history, this is a chart from 2018. This is our 2018 bottom in December 2018. And what I want to look at is the money flow coming deep into the red. Right now, our money flow is right here in the red. See this dotted line here on Market Cipher B? This shows us where it is right now. We're getting close, if we're from this percentage downward. And I would say, as market cap gets higher, it's not going to be as much as this is that 55% correction, 52% correction there around that. I think it'll be a little bit less. So we could have, a little bit more to go, another, 20, 30% on the way down. Let's look at the chart right now, right here. Let's look at the chart right now. You're not quite there yet, but if we kind of guesstimate it out, kind of like we did with Ethereum, we're getting close to the bottom here, June 12th or something, or a few weeks, you come down, another 20, 30% or something, 20% would bring you down to 22. I'd say worst case scenario, I don't think this is going to happen, but 30% would be right in the high 19s. I believe there's probably a lot of leverage around the high 19s, some people waiting to get liquidated. I think they may be okay. More people are going short now, finally, which makes me more confident to do a long. I'll show you a long position I did pretty recently this morning for Bitcoin. We're about to hit our first take profit for it. Take about 50% out here at this level, the spiral line right here. I entered it over here. And the reason I entered it is because we came into the green on the 15-minute, also on our 4-hour here on Bitcoin. You're getting a bullish divergence here. This is where, just like Ethereum, I was showing you, see the momentum is coming up as price is coming down here. This is a pretty strong bullish divergence. Now, do I think 25K was the bottom? Maybe, but probably not. We tend to see double bottom patterns. We tend to see it sideways at the bottom sometimes. I think you could rally here to maybe, 32K, maybe even higher, 36K, and then continue farther downward. So it would look something like, something like up here, and then you bottom out in June or something around here. This would make a lot of sense. And yeah, so I think ultimately, the main buying opportunity, DCA in, Mondays are always the cheapest day they're statistically to DCA in. If you have a plan to put a big sum of money in the next 4 weeks, that'd be a good plan. Also, another thing you could do, and this is, I don't like this as much, but if you wait till this red X confirms in Market Cipher A right here in 19 days, statistically, you may not get the exact bottom, but you're going to get pretty close if you buy right after here. So yeah.
All right, so Evan, I want to jump to our sentiment chart. This is something we reported on yesterday, and it played out definitely right to your charts as well, is that we did see a lot of downward pressure and had been seeing it really since the mid 40s. But one of the things that continuously concerned me was this falling both sentiment and amplification. And the one thing that I pointed out both on the CPI, um, custom videos that we do over on the Power Index, we dropped it last night. I actually tweeted it. Was that we'd probably see it maybe hit 25, and it did. And I think this is the zone we were mapping out right here as a potential opportunity. It's in a green candle, obviously, here on the daily. But the difference here, and we'll pull the sentiment chart later this afternoon and also tomorrow morning, which was when we dropped the CPI. This right here gave me a lot of faith to go in and do a trade today on Bitcoin and look for a nice little move up. And again, this is going to be a swing trade. So just as you guys know, we'll do market movers all the time like this, where we're pulling in data, giving you guys stories, not investment advice. This is basically our strategies, how we go about our day, and we share it with everybody just so you guys can understand the research we're going after, all that good stuff. But listen, you got to do your own research and also play your portfolios the way that they work for you, because not everybody's portfolio is the same. So this was a very interesting play, though, that really kind of played out in the CPI. We had been watching it, and it really helped us in a position to really get in a position to make a buy right here. And I think this is the chart that helps us understand why the CPI is so important in terms of helping people kind of at least get directions in going in that way. You can, of course, see it right here on Bitcoin, where we saw that divergence start to occur right here. And this was the indicator right here that we were going to see some volatility. We mapped that out in the video, and it ended up playing out. So pretty cool. Hey, Evan, when you look at Bitcoin right now, you're saying midsummer. What are your thoughts on midsummer?
Midsummer. So I think we'll, in all likelihood, that will be the bottom. I think we'll recover a bit once we go off of the low 20s. I don't think you're going to be in the low 20s for too much longer. I think the 40K point is kind of like the new 10K. You're probably going to get back to 40K pretty quickly. And then after the summer, with midterms coming up and everything, I mean, as long as you don't go into a crazy recession, which even if we do go into a recession, you got to realize things bottom out pretty quickly. Even in the
Yeah.
Great Recession, it bottomed out in a little over a year. We could bottom out in the summer and rally up a little bit by the end of the year if it's just a small recession, which I think is more likely, kind of like the recessions we saw back in the 80s, the 90s.
Yeah.
We're due for a smaller recession rather than those ones. So I think there's a good goal of getting back to 50K for Bitcoin by the end of the year, at least 40K. Midsummer, I think you'll see probably at least 30K. You'll start to rebound. I don't think we'll be below the 30K area for long. That's what I think.
Yeah. Evan, so I don't want to really kind of look at this in a negative way. It's still, there's a lot of good positive signs, I think, here, but there are a lot of indicators still leading into a recession actually happening. And if we get that GDP coming, and it's probably going to come in third quarter, lower GDP, which will give us an official recession. And timing is very interesting because you're right, midterms are there. That could play into this, which could help with the government maybe doing something, maybe even from a stimulus standpoint, to try to energize the economy, because they could actually back into a recession. And I think Powell, with what he's trying to do in managing the soft landing, I think there's going to be a lot of factors in play. The good thing is, I think crypto is stabilizing. For us to lose a stable coin and a major layer one this week, and Bitcoin and Ethereum, for that matter, has been so resilient to be able to hold and actually bounce a little. This, to me, just gives me more faith in the overall blockchain markets for sure. Evan, what do you when you look at long term investing right now? Or let's go back quickly. Short term, you're on a long. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Trying to get up to 30K. That's the main point. The long right now. Funding fees are negative. I think there could be a little bit of a short squeeze here if it's not already happening. Bring us up to
Yeah.
30K, maybe even mid 30Ks. But after that, I don't see enough evidence to really confidently say that we already hit a bottom here. I do think we'll have at least a double bottom pattern or a few more wicks down to the low 20s. I don't think you're going to go under 20K. But what I do think is you could get, pretty low in those areas. If I show my screen right here, you're asking about the the middle of kind of the summer, this would be actually this one would be better. What could happen here? We come in deep in the daily right here, and this is you come up, you bottom out around 23, 24K or something in June. Then after that, you have a rally back. In terms of these percentages, how we can move up forward. If you do a rally like this, something like here, you'd be due for a big jump. This would be, you could have a 70% correction next few months after 70% increase the next few months after our bottom. So you're back up to 40K by August. And then by the end of the year, it goes sideways. By the end of the year, I could see a 50, 60K. That's my view on it. In 2019, we rallied back close to all-time highs. So that was
Yeah.
pretty big too. So 2023 could be a huge year. You could get up to 60K or even more maybe.
Do you think 2023 could hold if we saw a full-on recession?
A
Let's
full-on recession. Yeah.
because I want
I
to
think
make a
go
point real
ahead.
quick. If
Yeah,
you
yeah.
look at the inflation, we had a nice slight adjustment down to 8.3, but many people think that's a little bit of a head fake, and that we're going to see more, still continuing growth in inflation, which will push us into a negative or GDP loss in Q3 most likely, and it pushes us into recession. Maybe that happens in 2023, especially leading it into an election year. How do you think that would play out?
It could get a little bit rough, but I think with inflation and all the things, I do think if we do have a recession, you will bottom out pretty quickly. You'll probably bottom out in this year. And then once you get
Okay.
that GDP news, that could be your buying opportunity for the recovery. Now, obviously, you get into like those stagflation things people talk about, price going up, but your money value going down. I don't like to think that negatively. Things can get kind of scary. I'm more of a positive guy. I'm trying to think at what point, what do you invest in at that point? I mean, maybe cotton,
Yeah.
commodities, as people talk about. But, I think we're a little ahead of ourselves there. I like to, look at historical
Agreed.
values. That's never happened. So I think even if you do enter a full blown recession, things bottom out quickly. You'll probably bottom out by the end of the year, maybe early
Yeah.
2023. As long as you don't go into a depression, which I don't think that's going to happen, but who knows?
That would be
I go by historical. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be unlikely, but it's definitely a possibility. Listen, the way that I'm playing this market for you guys is this gets completely different than what it has been in the bull market, which you could do a lot more risky things. Now it's a ground game and it is a grind. So you have to play tighter to the vest. You have to pay a lot more attention. You definitely need to be on top of your game in terms of shorts and longs and also swing trades, different ways to make money in a market like this. There's definitely ways to do it. We've already been able to do it a couple of times just in the last 5 days during a very volatile situation. So make sure and stay on what we're doing here. We'll continue to keep you guys updated on all this stuff. So but remember, everything now ground game. Got to pay attention very close to the vest on how you're making your trades. At least that's the way that we're going for it for sure. All right, listen, you guys are listening in. Hey, Evan, thanks a lot for stopping in today. Of course, if you guys have never checked out Evan's channel, make sure and check out. We'll leave a link below. There's also a course that he offers on Market Cipher that's amazing. Try it. You'll like it.
Yep.
And then, of
Thanks so
course, I
much.
think there's a discount in there, right? Are we giving
Yeah,
away a discount?
discount code 20% off down below. Yep.
Perfect. So make sure you use that, guys. And if you are, of course, listening in over on the podcast right now, make sure and jump over here to the YouTube channel. It's the best place to catch all this update and all the content that we're doing, of course, both on both shows here. And of course, if you want to reach me, it's out on Twitter at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.